Welcome to the deep dive. I want you to picture a business that is just operating at the absolute peak of the Amazon ecosystem.
Like, they are absolutely crushing it.
Right. We're talking 8 figures in revenue. They have completely mastered the search algorithm. Their advertising cost of sales is optimized to the exact penny. And, they have tens of thousands of legitimate, verified 5-star reviews.
Which is so incredibly hard to build.
Oh, totally. And for anyone building a brand today, that sounds like, well, the ultimate finish line. You build this amazing digital machine, you rank on page one, and you basically just ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, you just sit back and watch the dashboard.
Exactly. But here's the massive reveal we are looking at today. For a growing, ambitious brand, dominating Amazon is not the finish line at all. It's actually just the opening act.
It is a very lucrative opening act, obviously, but it is fundamentally just the beginning of what a brand can actually become in the wider market.
Right? So today our mission is to unpack the exact playbook from the Retailbound source material. We want to look at how an e-commerce giant takes all that hard-won digital success, steps outside the digital shopping cart, and actually breaks into traditional brick-and-mortar retail stores. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because to a lot of people listening, it just seems kind of wild to mess with a good thing. I mean, if your business is automatically generating revenue while you sleep and customers are happily clicking buy now from their couches, why on earth would you voluntarily take on the immense headache of physical stores?
Well, to really understand that, we have to look past the headlines, right?
Right.
We have to look at the reality of how human beings actually behave in the wild.
Like, what do you mean by that?
I mean, we hear constantly about the digital revolution, right? The death of the shopping mall, the whole idea that software is eating the world. But the truth is, physical retail still accounts for the vast majority of consumer purchases.
Really? The vast majority.
The overwhelming majority, yes. So if a brand is exclusively focusing all their energy on online sales, no matter how aggressively they are scaling on Amazon, they are artificially capping their own growth.
Oh, wow.
By ignoring brick and mortar, they are quite literally locking themselves out of the largest portion of the consumer market.
Which feels completely counterintuitive,
Yeah.
Because we just assume everyone lives on their phones now.
Right.
But the economic data proves otherwise. Which brings up a really fascinating behavioral question. Why do people still actually leave their houses to buy things when, next-day delivery exists?
It really comes down to the tangible experience, and that is something which is just completely irreplaceable for certain categories of products.
Like what kind of categories?
Think about apparel, beauty products, home furnishings, consumer electronics, or health and wellness.
Yeah.
In these categories, the sensory details are incredibly nuanced.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the risk of getting it wrong is super high for the consumer. Those physical nuances, they simply cannot be captured in a two-dimensional photo. I don't care how good the studio lighting is.
It makes me think of an analogy. Shopping exclusively online is a lot like reading a dating profile.
Oh, that is a great way to put it.
Right. Because you see the perfectly lit, highly curated photos, you read this optimized bio, you look at the star rating. But walking into a physical retail store, that is the actual first date.
Exactly. You get to see if the reality matches the hype.
Yes. Shoppers want to feel the drape of the fabric on a shirt. They want to examine the physical weight of a gadget in their own hands. Or, they want to color match a shade of foundation to their own skin tone before they commit. They're looking to verify that the physical reality actually matches the digital promise.
And that physical verification, it increases conversion rates almost instantly because the consumer's doubt is just completely removed. But beyond just, making the sale in that specific moment, securing a spot on a physical shelf does something entirely different for a brand's long-term reputation. It creates what the industry refers to as the billboard effect.
Okay, explain how the physical shelf operates as a billboard.
Hmm.
Because I think a lot of e-commerce founders view shelves purely as just a distribution channel, not as a marketing channel.
Well, think about the sheer volume of foot traffic in a major national retailer. I mean, millions of eyes are scanning those aisles every single week.
Yeah, that's a lot of impressions.
Exactly. A spot on a physical shelf isn't just a point of sale. It's a massive, physical, highly visible advertisement. A customer might discover your product while walking down the aisle, and maybe they don't buy it right then.
Right, they just walk past it.
But they remember the logo. They subconsciously remember the packaging. And then maybe 2 weeks later, they might buy it online or visit your website directly or even follow your brand on social media. The physical presence actively drives and subsidizes your digital engagement.
And it brings this instant, almost unquantifiable wave of credibility, too. Like if I see a completely new brand popping up on my social media feed, I'm naturally going to be a little skeptical.
Right, because literally anyone can run a digital ad.
Exactly. Anyone with a credit card. But if I see that exact same brand sitting on the physical shelves of Target or Walmart or Nordstrom, it acts as a massive endorsement.
It really does.
It's essentially the retailer whispering to the consumer, like, hey, we spent months vetting this company. They're a legitimate, you can trust them.
And that psychological shift in the consumer's mind is invaluable. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this transition is fundamentally about business resilience.
Resilience, yeah.
Expanding into physical retail allows a brand to capture completely new customer segments that they would just never reach online. You are suddenly capturing impulse buyers, people who just throw a product into their cart because the packaging caught their eye while they were buying milk.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I do that all the time.
Right. And you are reaching demographics who simply do not trust online shopping at all. By tapping into these entirely different revenue streams, the business just becomes vastly more insulated from market shocks.
Okay, so I completely see the upside. I really do. The credibility endorsement from major retailers, the billboard effect driving free impressions, the access to all these new demographics. But honestly, that makes me incredibly skeptical.
Why is that?
Well, if physical retail is so lucrative and builds such impenetrable credibility, why doesn't every single 8-figure Amazon seller just pivot and do this tomorrow? I mean, if you're an e-commerce brand accustomed to the instant gratification of an automated digital payment system, isn't traditional retail going to be an absolute culture shock?
Oh, culture shock doesn't even begin to cover it. It is a fundamental, ground-up rewiring of how the entire business operates. And it starts exactly where you just pointed out, the mechanics of cash flow.
Let's dig into that.
So Amazon sellers are accustomed to a very fast, very tight feedback loop. You make a sale, the platform pays out your funds in a matter of days, and you immediately use that liquid cash to manufacture more inventory.
Right. It's a constant, fast-moving cycle.
But traditional retail operates on an entirely different, incredibly stressful timeline.
Because you aren't getting paid when the customer buys the item. You're actually waiting on the retailer to pay you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how the dreaded net payment terms actually work in practice, because this is where I see brands absolutely suffocating.
Exactly. When you negotiate to sell your products to major retailers, you are typically forced to accept net 30, net 60, or even net 90 payment terms.
Net 90, that is brutal.
Let's break down the reality of a 90-day cash conversion cycle. First, you have to pay your factory to manufacture the product up front.
Right.
Then you pay the freight forwarder to ship it across the ocean. You pay to warehouse it. Then you ship it to the retailer's distribution center. It goes on their physical shelf. And the retailer might not pay you for that inventory for 3 solid months after they receive it.
Meanwhile, you've been out of pocket for that cash for like half a year.
Yes, exactly.
The cash flow gap there can absolutely crush a growing business if they haven't secured the capital to float that delay. And I mean, that is just the timing of the money. Let's talk about the amount of money leaving your pocket.
Oh, the hidden costs.
Yeah, because the cost structures in traditional retail are completely alien to someone who only knows e-commerce. On Amazon, you calculate your marketplace fees, your digital advertising costs of sales, your fulfillment fees, and boom, that's your margin. It's highly predictable.
Right, but when you step into traditional retail, a whole new ecosystem of margin-eating traps just emerges out of nowhere. First, you have to account for wholesale pricing. The retailer obviously needs to make their profit, which means a massive markup.
Of course.
But then you have promotional allowances.
Wait, explain promotional allowances. Are you saying the brand actually has to pay the retailer to put their own product on sale?
In many cases, yes. You are expected to help fund the sales, the discounts, and the weekly circulars that the retailer runs to drive foot traffic into their stores.
That is wild.
And then there are slotting fees.
What are slotting fees?
It is essentially paying rent just to have the privilege of placing your product on their highly coveted shelf space in the first place. You're buying the real estate.
Oh, wow. Right.
But the mechanism that truly catches digital brands off guard is the chargeback system.
I am so glad you brought this up, because when I first learned how retail chargebacks actually functioned, I was stunned. It sounds like something out of a dystopian corporate nightmare.
What's fascinating here is how strictly punitive the logistics of traditional retail can be.
Mm.
In e-commerce, a chargeback usually just means a customer disputed a credit card charge with their bank.
Right.
But in traditional wholesale retail, a chargeback is a literal financial penalty issued by the retailer against the brand for messing up their highly calibrated supply chain.
And they do not mess around with their supply chains.
No, they do not. Retailers have incredibly strict, encyclopedic requirements for how your inventory must arrive at their distribution centers.
And we aren't just talking about making sure the right product is in the box, right? We are talking about hyper-specific, granular compliance. Give me a hypothetical scenario of how a brand gets hit with one of these penalties.
It is entirely about operational precision. So let's say you ship a massive order. The retailer's routing guide states that the shipping labels must be placed exactly 3 inches from the bottom right corner of the carton.
Okay, 3 inches.
But your warehouse team places them 4 inches from the corner.
Oh, no.
The retailer's automated scanners can't read them efficiently. So they don't just reject the shipment, they accept it, they pay their own employees to manually relabel your boxes, and then they deduct that labor cost, plus a hefty penalty fee directly from the invoice they owe you.
That is insane. Over 1 inch.
Yep. If your delivery truck arrives at the distribution center 20 minutes past its scheduled appointment window, chargeback.
Unbelievable.
If your pallets are stacked, 1 inch too high, chargeback. Failure to meet these standards doesn't just erode your profit margins. It severely damages your reputation with a retail buyer.
Which really highlights a terrifying reality for these founders. The specific skills you use to reach the top of Amazon are practically useless here.
Completely useless.
Like knowing how to bid on long-tail search terms or how to write an SEO-optimized product title does absolutely nothing to help you configure a pallet of goods for a Walmart loading dock.
Yeah.
It is a completely different sport.
It is.
And to play it, you suddenly need a completely different team. You're no longer just hiring digital marketers. You're hiring retail sales representatives, national account managers, field merchandisers to check the physical shelves, and, trade show personnel.
It requires a massive organizational shift. The skills required to dominate a digital platform are highly technical, they're analytical and immediate. But the skills required to negotiate and maintain traditional retail accounts, those are relationship-based, diplomatic, and geared toward long-term logistical planning.
So if you're listening to this, and you spent the last 3 years mastering Seller Central, you're probably wondering right now, how do I survive this transition without going bankrupt? How do you get past these gatekeepers when the friction is this high?
Right. It seems impossible.
But the brilliance of this entire transition is that you don't abandon your digital past. The secret is weaponizing your digital history to secure your physical future.
Yes, it's the Amazon Trojan horse strategy.
I love that term.
Because when a legacy brand launches a new product and tries to pitch a retail buyer, they are often just guessing. They walk into the meeting and say, well, we think this product will sell well in your stores. Our focus groups say people like it.
Which is pretty weak evidence, honestly.
Exactly. But an e-commerce native brand has a massive, completely unfair advantage over legacy competitors. They have cold, hard, verifiable data.
Let's role play this because I want to get into the psychology of the retail buyer for a second. If I am a regional buyer for a massive big box store, my shelf space is my absolute most valuable asset. Every linear inch of that shelf has to yield specific dollar amount, or frankly, I get fired.
Right. You are highly risk-averse.
Exactly. So why would I take a chance on a digital-first brand that has zero track record in physical stores?
Because you aren't actually taking a chance. The digital brand removes the risk entirely by proving the demand already exists. They walk into your office and they don't offer guesses. They offer geographic heat maps.
Oh, that is powerful.
They can sit down and say, I know you oversee the Midwest region for this retailer. I can show you the exact zip codes in your territory where we are already shipping 5,000 units a month. Your local customers are already buying this. We just want to let them buy it directly from you.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the brand isn't just saying, we make money. They are de-risking the exact metric the buyer is terrified of, which is dead stock.
Yes, nobody wants dead stock on the shelf.
So you can bring in your thousands of verified customer reviews to act as undeniable social proof. You can show your year-over-year sales growth trends to prove the entire product category is expanding.
Exactly. And perhaps most powerfully, you can bring your repeat purchase data.
Oh, the holy grail.
Right. You can prove to the buyer that Customers don't just buy this item once and forget about it. They subscribe to it. They come back every 45 days. Amazon hasn't just been a digital store for this brand. It has secretly been a massive self-funding focus group that generated the flawless, undeniable pitch deck needed to win over retail buyers.
It's brilliant leverage. But even armed with that perfect data, you can't just sprint into national distribution. The biggest trap a newly successful e-commerce brand can fall into is walking into a buyer meeting and demanding to be placed in 5,000 stores on day one.
It would be absolute operational suicide. If you launch in 5,000 stores simultaneously, and your pallet configuration is wrong, or your warehouse mislabels the cartons like we talked about earlier, the compounded chargebacks from 5,000 locations will put you out of business in a month.
The fees alone would bankrupt you.
You have to stress test your new operations first. The smarter, more sustainable path is the start small strategy.
Right, you want to just test the waters. You target independent retailers first, or maybe regional chains with 50 locations instead of 5,000. Or you negotiate a test in just one specific geographic district of a major retailer.
Yeah, you could take the risk.
And then you use this smaller footprint to aggressively refine the entire retail program. You're working out the kinks in your shipping logistics, you're testing your supply chain compliance, and gathering real-world feedback before you ever attempt a national rollout.
And crucially, that testing phase is where you figure out if your physical packaging actually works.
Yes.
Because the environment of a physical shelf demands an entirely different design philosophy than a digital storefront.
Let's dig into the packaging mechanics, because this was a huge light bulb moment for me. On Amazon, your physical packaging barely matters in terms of converting the sale.
It really doesn't.
The perfectly staged studio images on the listing, the bullet points, the 5-star badge, they do 100% of the selling. You could technically shift the product in a completely blank brown cardboard box, and the customer wouldn't care, because by the time they actually see the box, they've already paid you.
Right. But in a brick-and-mortar store, the physical packaging has to do all the heavy lifting.
Every bit of it.
There is no search bar. There is no SEO title explaining the features. There is no infinite scroll to read more details.
Your product is just sitting there on a chaotic shelf, usually under terrible fluorescent lighting, surrounded by 50 ruthless competitors. The physical packaging has a massive, almost impossible checklist it has to accomplish simultaneously.
Oh, absolutely.
First, it has to visually stand out on that crowded shelf just to break the customer's autopilot. Second, it has to clearly communicate the key benefits instantly, because a shopper walking down an aisle gives you a maximum of, 3 seconds of their attention?
3 seconds is generous, honestly. And it also has to immediately reflect the brand's identity and price point.
Right.
If it's a premium product, the box actually has to feel premium in the hand, and functionally, it has to physically protect the product from getting damaged by aggressive stalkers and careless shoppers.
And on top of all of that marketing and protection, it still has to perfectly meet the strict physical dimension requirements dictated by the retailer, so it literally fits on their specific shelving units.
It really is a masterclass in physical design. Effective packaging directly impacts the sell-through rate, which, is the velocity at which a product moves from the shelf to the cash register.
Right, how fast it sells.
If your packaging fails to grab attention in those 3 seconds, your entire retail experiment fails, regardless of how impeccable your Amazon data was in the buyer meeting.
That's the brutal reality of the shelf. But let's say a brand navigates all of this successfully. They secure the capital to survive the cash flow shock. They build a compliance team to avoid those nasty chargebacks. They use their digital Trojan horse data to win over a regional buyer, and their newly designed packaging looks absolutely incredible on the shelf.
They've run the gauntlet.
Exactly. But the final step of this journey isn't just popping champagne because they finally made it to retail. It's about fundamentally shifting their entire business philosophy. It is no longer about choosing between Amazon or retail. It's about fusing both worlds together into a cohesive, omni-channel ecosystem.
Omnichannel. I know it's a bit of a corporate buzzword, but the mechanics of it are incredibly powerful.
It really is the goal.
The online and offline channels cannot operate as competing factions within the same company. They have to actively feed each other. You are trying to create a closed feedback loop for the customer.
Exactly. A truly effective omni-channel strategy ensures the customer has a seamless experience, regardless of where they interact with the brand. The digital presence drives physical foot traffic, and the physical presence drives digital engagement.
Right.
A great practical example of this synergy is taking the massive email marketing list you built online and using it to blast out geo-targeted announcements when you launch in specific retail stores in their area.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we are finally in a store near you.
Oh, that's huge.
You leverage your social media following to drive physical foot traffic for exclusive in-store events or product drops. And one of the simplest, highest ROI tactics, you put a QR code right on that beautiful new retail packaging.
Yes.
So the customer who discovers you in the store can instantly scan it, access video tutorials, and be pulled directly back into your digital ecosystem.
It creates a self-sustaining loop of brand loyalty.
It makes me think of how a highly successful restaurant empire operates.
Okay, tell me more.
Well, think of the drive-through window as your Amazon sales. It is highly transactional, it's built for speed, efficiency, and convenience for a customer who knows exactly what they want and they want it tomorrow.
Right, getting it out.
Then you have the sit-down dining room, which represents your physical retail presence. It's about the tangible experience, the ambiance, taking your time, and maybe discovering new brand. They serve two entirely different customer moods and needs.
I see where you're going with this.
But here's the critical secret. Both the drive-thru and the dining room rely on the exact same highly functional kitchen in the back of the building. And in this transition, that kitchen is your supply chain.
That analogy perfectly isolates the hidden mechanics of omnichannel success. The front-end customer experiences are vastly different, yes, but the back-end operations must be unified, integrated, and completely bulletproof.
They have to be.
Because physical retailers prioritize consistent product availability above almost everything else. If you are out of stock, you are dead to them. Before a brand even approaches a retail buyer, they have to run a brutal, uncompromising stress test on that kitchen.
So if a brand is stress testing their operations right now, what are the specific hard questions they really need to be asking their logistics teams?
Well, they need to rigorously evaluate their scale and their compliance ceilings. Like, can your overseas manufacturer actually scale up production fast enough to handle your baseline Amazon volume plus massive new retail purchase orders without a drop in quality?
That's a huge hurdle.
Right. And do you have adequate physical inventory capacity in your stateside warehouses? Can your third-party logistics partners actually meet the insane compliance requirements and routing guides we talked about earlier? And crucially, from an IT perspective, do you have the software systems in place capable of cross-channel inventory tracking in real time?
Because if, a random influencer makes your product go viral on TikTok and it completely drains your Amazon warehouse in 3 days, you cannot just cannibalize your wholesale pallets to cover that digital spike.
Exactly.
If you short a massive retailer's purchase order because you sold their inventory online, they will penalize you and potentially just drop your brand entirely.
You absolutely cannot rob Peter to pay Paul in an omni-channel supply chain. And this raises an important question for any founder or brand operator listening right now. How dependent is your revenue on a single platform?
Yeah, that's the scary part.
Because if 100% of your business lives on Amazon, you are incredibly vulnerable. A single algorithm update, an automated account suspension, or just a well-funded aggressive competitor can wipe out your cash flow overnight.
We've seen it happen so many times.
The operational stress of upgrading your supply chain to handle an omni-channel approach is immense, sure, but it is the exact mechanism that secures your brand's long-term survival. You cease being just an Amazon seller, and you evolve into a resilient, nationally recognized brand.
It really is the ultimate corporate insurance policy. So what does this all mean? If we synthesize the mechanics we've dug into today, it becomes crystal clear that moving from Amazon to brick-and-mortar retail isn't just about adding a new sales channel to your dashboard. It is a grueling, necessary metamorphosis.
It's growing up as a business.
Yes. You have to secure capital to master punishing new cost structures. You have to translate your digital value into a physical box that acts as a silent salesperson. And you have to completely overhaul your logistics to support a unified omnichannel machine. But the reward for navigating that friction is the one thing every business desperately needs: true resilience.
Absolutely.
Diversifying your footprint across both the digital and physical world is really the only proven way to build an impenetrable fortress around your brand.
It is the defining line between a trendy product that sells well for a few years and a legacy brand that endures for decades. And I want to leave you with the final concept to mull over on your own, thinking back to the psychology of how we all shop today. Consider your own recent habits and that billboard effect we discussed earlier.
Oh, this is going to fundamentally change how people view their own shopping carts.
Think about the next time you confidently click Buy Now on a new brand's website because you feel like you inherently trust them. Stop and ask yourself, did you actually trust that digital storefront based on their website design? Or, somewhere in the back of your mind, did you subconsciously remember seeing their products sitting legitimately on a physical shelf at Target or Nordstrom a few months ago?
Wow.
It begs the question, in our modern, interconnected omnichannel world, is the physical retail shelf actually just the world's most expensive, most effective physical advertisement for an online purchase?
That is going to melt some brains the next time you're walking down the aisle at the grocery store. It really exposes how deeply the lines between digital and physical commerce have blurred. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating high-stakes leap from e-commerce to physical retail. We appreciate you learning with us, and we will catch you on the next one.